afternoon, everyone. So here we are with yet another episode of Landscape Vignettes, and today we have with us Team Wave, a team of young professionals having a winning entry for Ente Kochi and a thoughtful landscape intervention. The team is Sivagami, Vinitra, Gayatri, Sindhuja, Sanchana, Devika, and Sriram. So we are looking at one of the intervention that this team has done for their Ente Kochi, and we are going to look at the presentation that to understand the strategies or to understand the kind of ideas they have put in through landscape design. So let us proceed now to understand the way they have taken this.
Firstly, we would like to thank LS Raheja School of Architecture and New Arc Unlearn for giving us this opportunity to present our design proposal titled Jalapada, Envisioning a Wave of Life, which was submitted as part of the Mullaseri Design Precinct, which was a part of the Ente Kochi competition held in August this year. When we approached the brief, we had a few questions in mind. What scale of influence should we consider when we address a problem of urban stature? What are the benefits of reviving a man-made canal system, and what is its impact on the larger ecosystem? Given that the natural landform of the coastal plains is disrupted irreversibly by urbanization, how do we build resilience for the future? Traditionally, water systems have been associated with social, cultural, and ecological significance. How do we bring back this aspect of the link between man and water? So the relation of the canal to the larger context has been analyzed by examining the canal at three distinct scales, from a macro level to the site scale. The scales have been determined not based on the physical or administrative boundary, but we've broadly taken the area based on the ecological role played by the canal with respect to the larger natural systems. For each of the scales, while a few layers helped in understanding the larger natural systems, for the presentation, we'll be elaborating on the ones which have a direct influence on our design intent. Moving on to the next slide. So at the larger scale, we started with the understanding of landscape parameters such as climate, geology, and the soil strata. The original landform of Kochi comprised of alluvial baths with north-south orientation of alternating swales and sandbars. This enabled in channelizing the natural runoff from the region into the sea. With the advent of urbanization, there was the creation of artificial ridges which disrupted the natural watershed. Also, in the regional study, we realized that there are two main rivers which drain into the Vembanad Lake, which is the largest estuarine lagoon in India. This lake is a freshwater system during the monsoon and becomes a brackish water system during the dry seasons. Next slide. So narrowing down further into the Kochi sub-basin, there are a number of streams which originate from the eastern lower hills, which meander across the flat terrain of the coastal plains and then drain into the sea. Also, we realize that the watershed is of a rectangular profile, which signifies more time of concentration and lower rates of runoff across the terrain. This creates the possibility of creating water detention structures along the canal precinct. Also, the texture of the drainage texture is coarse, which facilitates the percolation of water into the lower strata. Also, there exists one main canal which runs parallel to the coast, which is this Tevara Perendur Canal. And also, we have these subsidiary canals which runs perpendicular to it. These perpendicular canals bring in the saline water from the sea into the Tevara Perendur Canal. The Mullaseri Canal, which is our site, creates an estuarine habitat, striking a balance between the fresh water from the Perendur Canal and the saline water from the sea. Next slide. So the topography of the site, moving on to the site scale, we realize that the topography also follows the overall morphology of the coastal plains, which is evident from the roads which also run parallel to the coast, dividing the site into three watersheds. A few of the canals and wetlands have been converted into roads, especially the MG road, which runs centrally across the site. So this is one of the localities which also gets flooded during the monsoons. Superimposing the terrain map on the site also enabled in demarcating the lowest points in each of the watersheds. An analysis of the micro watersheds around the canal revealed that the surface runoff doesn't have a direct relation to the source of water in the canal. This was one big inference for us as part of the study. So, while channelizing the surface runoff might help in reviving natural systems, for a canal system, the role played by it is totally different. The canal helps in the percolation of fresh water underground, which in turn helps in tackling saline water ingression, which is a major concern faced by the coastal cities. Also, vegetation and marine life, which is present along the canal, adapts to this seasonal change in the canal. For instance, the marine fishes and prawns migrate from the canal during the dry seasons when the canal turns saline. Yeah, next slide. Yeah, analyzing the urban network patterns, existing blue-green networks had little or no connection with the nature of development. Waterways, being an important mode of transport in the city, is insufficiently used, scarcely connected to the transport networks, and has been developed with little concern for the ecology. There is still potential for the water-centered transit system to be developed cohesively in the urban landscape. The canal itself forms a big part of the open space and green network, but has weaker connections and links to other green spaces, such as the mangroves and the paddy fields. This results in the disappearance of the latter and a standard template of roads and transit network crisscrossing the city, almost replacing the canal network. Yeah, next slide. Yeah. So zooming further into the Mullasery Canal precinct, we observe a variety of urban practices that have resulted in the site being vulnerable to periodic flooding, vector-borne diseases, saltwater ingression, biodiversity loss, to name a few. The micro wetlands of the site have been converted into lands for development, and the canal itself has shrunk in its capacity to carry the overflow from the Perendur Canal in the east and doesn't accommodate surface water discharge. Seasonal tidal flooding from the western backwaters is also a concern that needs to be addressed while building dense urban blocks in proximity to this area. So this was in brief our landscape analysis for the site. So the landscape study helped in establishing the role of the canal in today's scenario. In brief, the canal plays two important ecological functions. One is in creating a balance in the estuarine ecosystem, and the other one is in minimizing the saline water ingression. This established the premise for the revival of the canal, and additional interventions were looked at for the precinct to create a resilient landscape. Yeah, next slide. So the concept, strategic framework, and the master plan will further be discussed by Sivagami.
So looking at the concept, we realized that the site needed an overhaul of systems as well as a new way, like a new perception in which the natural ecosystem had to be viewed. We proposed the concept of a new wave of life, WAVE being an acronym here, where W is to weave the canal into the community, A is to adapt the existing environment to protect against flooding, V is to vitalize ecosystems and natural habitats local to the site, and E is to embed a culture of living and building with nature. Next. In order to conceive a project based on the concept, we divided the site into logical paths, institutional, commercial, and transit hubs, which can then be planned together under the larger canal-oriented development, which comprises of planning and landscape strategies and regulations. Each hub may have a unique set of planning and landscape solutions based on the nature of the development in that hub and the nature of the natural systems and their physical connection to the canal. Incorporating landscape solutions of 3 different types was also thought of, that is productive, recreational, and didactic. These solutions, apart from acting as open public spaces, also act as effective stormwater infrastructure. For a radical transformation, it is imperative to consider a phased implementation. The idea is to begin with short pilot projects, which have also been suggested briefly as part of this strategic framework. Next. The nature of stakeholders play a central role in the process of translating the concept to reality. We consider here that the canal itself is the primary stakeholder, a living entity that is connected to others in meaningful ways. Community land trust could be seen here as a way to provide affordable housing to the low-income families and reconstitute individual residential plots into a cohesive whole in order to enable working together to protect a common resource. Next. The canal-oriented development, therefore, is envisioned in the three hubs respectively as an educational campus, a mixed-use zone, and a residential block. The educational campus is planned along with a connection to an active, non-motorized transport-friendly edge of the canal as well as a recreational landscape feature. Next. A mixed-use hub may constitute a didactic, recreational as well as productive landscape solutions such as roof gardens, urban farms, hydroponic farms, and community gardens. Next. The residential block emulates the characteristics of the mixed-use zone in addition to providing sustainable, affordable housing solutions. For instance, we've used solar panels on the roofs along with roof gardens and inclusive play parks. Next. Now let's look at the master plan. The canal programmatically interacts differently at different portions of the site. The dedicated NMT network that acts as a primary horizontal connect enables the last mile connectivity for the metro and bus terminus while suggesting an alternative route for vehicular traffic. Moving from west to east, the coastal edge constitutes a recreational and institutional land use, allowing scope for the creation of public spaces that can multiply as water storage and collection facilities. The central site, which is the Site B, reconfigures the market experience by including the canal as an element connecting programs such as a transit plaza, the Fashion Street, and the Maharaja Ground. The connection of the Mullasheri Canal to the Perandur Canal is a vital ecological node and is sensitively integrated into the design of the KSRTC bus terminus and the wetland park. Next. Deriving from the landscape study, one of the ideas was to restore the landscape identity of the coastal plains by accentuating the flat terrain of the site in the form of alternating ridges and valleys. The idea was to break the rigid edges of the canal and meander it across the site with an elevated design node in each of the three sub-basins, highlighting the ridges across the terrain and deepening the canal at the lowermost points to indicate the valleys. Next. These are sections that cut through the canal precinct and show the varying character of the spaces. The three components of the canal, namely the edge, the embankment, and the bed, were reconfigured across the stretch, variations in the materials and profile. In spaces where there is sufficient width, the canal has been widened to create smaller islands within it, which creates microhabitats for organisms. These edges have also been made accessible through stepped terraces. This is present in the institutional zone and would act as a spillover space for the students as well. In areas with space limitations where the width of the canal becomes narrow, it is maintained that way for unobstructive flow of water. Next. Depending upon the land use of the subsites, the character of the canal has been accordingly articulated to create an open space which is woven into the surrounding context. Next. These show the different street sections which we designed across the site. Type 1 street refers to arterial roads such as the MG road, which is prone to flooding, which is located in a valley. Hence, it requires a robust stormwater drain infrastructure. The proposed section involves the collection and rechanneling of rainwater to a network of bioswales that are concealed under the metro line. Type 2 and Type 5 street sections refer to residential smaller cul-de-sacs that can be reimagined as shared streets with slow-moving traffic and a green buffer. The Type 3 street section refers to the linkage that runs parallel to the railway track and is imagined as a dedicated NMT loop that aligns with a government-proposed green corridor. Type 4 street section cuts through a connector street such as the Shanmugam Road along the institutional campus, which accommodates a dedicated cycle track alongside a linear bioswale. Next. Now we look at the detailed design of Site A and Site C. Site A involves the KSRTC bus terminus, which is envisioned as a transit hub that also translates into a public space. The KSRTC bus station has been reimagined in order to minimize the footprint and structural stress on the land and convert the lowest the site into a public water feature in order for storm water to drain into it naturally. The KSRTC land on the south gets freed up to be converted into a public park when the bus parking has been taken to the elevated level, and hence the freed up portion can serve the residential neighborhoods and become an identity to the place. Next. The cycle track runs parallel to the railway track. The elevated bus parking frees up the ground to act as a thriving public space. The wetland park on the other side of the track is an attempt at reviving the neglected wetlands and envisioning them as green lung spaces on the urban front. Further, a biogas plant is proposed to generate energy from waste within the KSRTC facility. Design elements have been incorporated in such a way that it adds both aesthetic and sustainable values to the KSRTC complex. For instance, the rain catchers help channelize rainwater into collection points while also providing a design language for the state service. Site C is characterized as an institutional hub but is mixed with other uses, making it imperative to suggest sensitive in situ solutions. A series of in situ solutions are made. The Marine Drive, for instance, is enhanced. Floating pontoons are introduced along the sea to attenuate high tidal waves. Priyadarshini Park, which is the large green space existing over here, is modified to enhance stormwater retention, and along the canal front, low-income housing is reimagined to build resilience. The existing secondary waste collection is located away from the canal banks. Accessibility of the Jewish cemetery is established by introducing visitor-centric programs and an arboretum housing native species for viewing and educational purposes. Publicly accessible research center is designed along the institutional campus with a built form creating open and semi-open spaces for interaction for students along the canal. LIG units are proposed as prototypes for sustainable low-cost housing along the canal as a means to make the unit resilient to flooding. The lower level is kept open, acting as a wet-free intervention. The upper floor houses the closed private spaces, and the lower floor becomes multi-purpose. In institutional campuses, a combination of constructed ponds, rain gardens in the low-lying areas have been introduced for natural recharge of aquifers, and the reuse of water from detention tanks is further used for everyday consumption. To summarize, we will take a look at the views of the different sites. Site A, this shows a view of the reviving wetlands. This shows the constructed wetlands, which is conceived as a public space which is connected to the KSRTC via the pedestrian bridge that you can view over here. This is a visualization of the market zone in Site B, where the canal has been expanded and becomes a public space feature that merges with the market strip. That functions as a rainwater collection pond during the monsoons and as a vibrant public space during summer. To conclude, these were our inferences. Water can be perceived as a need, resource, opportunity, or threat based on the design solutions proposed. With the growing rate of natural disasters due to climate change and rapid urbanization, it is empirical for us to design and build our cities without disturbing the balance in the ecosystem. The design of our built environment from the macro to the micro scale can significantly impact the way we live. Apart from creating buildings that appear to be green, it is vital to have a more comprehensive approach to build sustainable cities. It is important to understand water and cities within a larger notion of a constructed ecosystem. Thank you.
Wonderful presentation by Team Wave, and I really like the idea, the concept where you introduced Wave and you tried to weave and adapt and value and embed these ideas and concepts in terms of trying to introduce a lot of rain gardens and trying to introduce these concepts to harvest and trying to give the earth back the resources that it really wants to have. Many congratulations to you all, to Team Wave. And I would like to have a few of the questions for you, which would be based on the experience of your working in this particular competition. So the first question being, you have pinpointed your regional analysis as a very important part of your understanding of the needs of the city, right? Would you say this analysis derived by landscape architectural methods help you develop a holistic way of arriving at the role of Mulasari Canal precincts in the city of Kochi?
Yes, it was actually very important to arrive at a holistic solution because, as we have seen, the Mullashiri Canal played a role in the larger network of the canal and water bodies in the city and helps in the drainage as well as a balance between freshwater and salt water. In that case, although the network is currently compromised in the city, we realized maybe this solution, this project, could be a pilot of sorts in an effort to rejuvenate the water systems in the future, which is essential for a coastal city like Kochi, especially in order to become resilient in the face of climate change.
Right. I'll move on to the next question. So the next question is, being a multidisciplinary team working remotely across your city and others, do you think this way of working provided easier for you due to shared past, or do you believe that this is as a way of working helped you work well together during the pandemic? So could you share this experience? How did the working actually help you?
Yeah, so we may actually never have considered forming such a diverse team if actually not for this situation, because we were all compelled to work remotely. So we considered going beyond where we are to, kind of bring together people we knew from before. And we formed this team as independent professionals from different backgrounds: urban designers, landscape expert, social development experts, and so on. So we were able to form that diverse team because of this, I would say. And also, since everybody has been working remotely on a daily basis, for their regular work, we were able to accommodate this project more easily into our schedules because we were used to this mode for some time. And then we were able to coordinate our meetings during the weekends when we all would be available. That's how we made this work. So we made a rough timeline at the very beginning in order to, get ourselves comfortable, also predict, any delays and plan our schedule accordingly. We would give ourselves intermediate deadlines because the scope of the project was also such, it was large and it required us to divide and conquer. So we needed to plan properly, we needed to make a schedule in advance and also share it with everybody online, be it in terms of the study, the ideation, design stage and the presentation. We divided the work and shared it online with everybody, so we knew each other, we knew what we were working on. And then we made sure that we would schedule the group calls only on weekends, and we would constantly keep in touch through WhatsApp messages. So here I would really like to point out that we decided to use online tools that we were already familiar with.
Right.
Such as Google Slides, for instance, in case of sharing our work and ideas, Google Hangouts when we did our group calls, and we were constantly in touch on WhatsApp. So I guess these tools were very helpful for us when we worked. And we also made sure to synchronize our design software versions, which was very important to do it in advance because we were not going to meet each other in person, so we could not share like files on pen drives and such. So we had to have similar formats that we were working with. So we discussed that in advance. We made sure that happened as well. And then I guess through the process, we were comfortable enough to share our ideas on Google Slides and keep each other updated. But towards the end, I think all of us pitched in, we pooled in our time and resources. It was a very busy week, and we
Right.
managed to execute the presentation because we had already planned out the sheet, the layout, the composition, how it should be. So that helped us really split the work and efficiently manage the presentation as well as in the end. So that's our experience of it.
Great, great. That's quite challenging to look at. We'll move on to the next question. So, what challenges have you faced and perhaps overcome while working online and across cities? So, could you share some of the advantages as well as the disadvantages of this way of working? Like, was it so key the physical meetings that happened were more fruitful rather than you know having something on an online platform? So, how did that affect entirely the working system?
Yeah, we definitely saw both advantages and disadvantages. Well, I will start with the advantages. We can probably look at it in a positive light in the beginning because all of us on the team actually we were not all acquainted from earlier. Some
Right.
of us knew each other, but some of us didn't know each other at all. So the online platform, like I'd also said earlier, it actually helped us expand our connections this way. It gave us an opportunity to work together, even when we had not, worked earlier with each other. So that was a good thing. And then working with online platforms, we also have these glitches. We have internet issues. We'll have some other glitch technically. So we made sure that we would always stick to the schedule and the topic at hand. That helped us actually work more efficiently, I would say. So because we would not probably discuss anything else that was not concerning the project at that point in time, because we knew anytime probably we may not have an internet connection or something might not work out, and we all had only Sundays when we will all meet and work together. And
Right.
then
Right.
of course online tools like Google Slides helped us collaborate in real time without loss of any information, because we would all have ideas. So, and as soon as we got an idea, we would make it available to everybody on the team by adding them to these slides and immediately sent a message on WhatsApp asking everybody to check it out. So that was really helpful. However, on a similar note, a disadvantage would be while working, on Google Slides entirely without a physical meeting when we're sharing ideas with each other. I think we spent a little bit more time on that, yeah, time and effort, because whenever we have an idea, it cannot just be a scribble or a doodle. We had to make it
Right.
presentable. We had to put in text, everything, so that we communicated to others on the team better. So that was probably a disadvantage. We may have done it better if we had met in person, is what I feel,
Correct.
is what we feel. But probably this is also because we're still getting used to the new normal. We may still be
Yes.
discovering more advantages to the system as well. And also,
Right.
since we were a new team, like not all of us knew each other, I think that was also a concern. We had some delays in communication, and to be on the same page with ideas and the concept and also the presentation. So that happened for a while, and I suppose these are the disadvantages mainly, but we managed overall, I suppose, with the remote working and online tools.
Right. Do the other team members want to add something?
No.
I think there was definitely when we were composing the sheets together, it was quite a task because there are so many file formats and things being sent uploaded on the drive. You don't know which is the most recent file which is being uploaded, and Sanjana made it sound really nice, but it was very stressful the last few days, and we were working till the last minute. So when we uploaded the file, it was I think 11:50 something, and 12 o'clock was the deadline. So it did have its own challenges. And definitely, if you're working under the same roof, then you can immediately, cross check things like, are you using the same swatch? Are you using a similar kind of, design style for the sheet? Show me what you're doing. Does it look like this? And things like that. And those are things that I think we're still trying to learn to kind of figure out as like a common aesthetic, or like make the sheet look more cohesive, because we didn't set aside that buffer time to put things together, or rather we ran out of that buffer time. So the plan is to like keep working on such competitions and keep collaborating every now and then, so that we also get like fresh inputs and new ideas. And because I remember that we all had a certain way of looking at things, because most of us were from urban design or an urban planning background. And when Vinitra
We have to
suddenly had
break through
like,
the monotony.
yeah, and so we were in the same studio at CEP, so we already know how to look at a design proposal. We already know what kind of study and analysis goes into it. So the minute
Right.
like we would get inputs from say Vinitra, who comes from a landscape background and who has like completely different way of looking at things, and then she would question certain things, like even that scale, like what scale do you approach when you look at a design problem, an urban design problem. We would
Right.
have just looked at, okay, city scale, mark the administrative boundary, and then see
Right.
whatever fits within it. So like there were certain things which was definitely like a big eye opener for us, I would say, in working with such a diverse team. And
Right.
even like the role of stakeholders and the different kinds of processes that you can involve. There was Devika and Gayatri, who are not here today, both of whom come
Correct.
from planning and other backgrounds. So that was also very interesting, because they had so much
Right.
of knowledge to share from, in fact, like real life and real work. So we actually also got
All
introduced
the
into.
technical and practical terms.
Correct. And also like projects which are actually happening right now in the country, which we know little about, because I feel like once we go into our individual disciplines, we all get stuck into that bubble. So that way this competition
Right.
really helped.
Correct. Yeah, great. So I'll just move on to the last question. The last question being, so landscape played a very important role in formulating your regional analysis and the design solutions as well. So, however, landscape architecture, as the work that landscape architects do, often evokes varied understandings, right? So, could you share your understandings of the landscape architect's role in a project such as this?
Well, I'll probably say this from the perspective of an urban designer, and I'd also like Vinitra to add in the end. So, as a landscape architect, I think her role was very essential for this competition, specifically because she had the working knowledge of the functioning and the role of different kinds of ecosystems and their components, flora, fauna, water, whatever needed to go into our understanding of the Mullasheri Canal. She brought into the picture for us to consider, although we knew ideologically what needs to be done with the canal. She brought
Yes.
in these technical aspects into it, which really helped us shape the project better. And also, since we, all of us on the team agreed that taking this forward, we should protect the coastal and the wetland ecosystem of the site. And it was essential in addressing all the urban stresses because we were given already a series of issues to look at on the site, and we believe that most of them can be resolved if you are taking care of the existing ecosystems. And
Right.
because of that itself, I think the role of the landscape expert was indispensable for us. I'd like Vinitra also to add a few words here.
Yes, yes, sure.
Yeah, so one more major inference that we learned from this competition was, as landscape architects, we also have a specific set of layers through which we approach a project, starting
Right.
from geology, soil, watershed, water systems, and all of
Right.
that. What was different here was, while only while like experiencing this process did we realize that for a canal system the watershed becomes insignificant, because a canal being a man-made system, the watershed, I mean, we actually spent a lot of time learning about the subbasins, the surface
Right.
runoff, and all of that. And at the end of 1-2 weeks, we realized that all of that is actually not crucial for this study. So even
Right.
reviving the surface runoff will not revive the water in the canal. So I feel even in landscape, even though we have a lot of layers and a specific stereotype in which we approach projects, I feel every ecosystem challenges that, and you actually learn a lot in the process.
So that's it for the question and answers. This surely gives us an insight on how landscape can be addressed at an urban scale. The role of landscape architects, which plays an important part in preserving the natural systems and in turn benefit the society. I once again thank Team Wave for this wonderful presentation and an in-depth study. I congratulate you for the entry into Ente Kochi and wish you all the best wishes for your future endeavors. Thank you so much.